Welcome to the Edinburgh Fringe. And to twist one of the world's greatest lyrics, this fringe was made for you and me. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. Welcome once more to the arts capital of the world, the Edinburgh Festival Fringe, taking over Scotland's capital city for August. And I've got a little flavour of it for you. Texan bagpipe rock and roll is Needfire, as always, with our theme tune. And we're going to stay in America, kind of, for our musical piece of today. But before then, hey, we're back in the studio. How did you enjoy the trip down the Royal Mile? As always, I'd like just to get a different flavour of the Fringe, that fast move, the huge number of shows, all with different viewpoints, all bringing in just some amazing pieces of art that make you laugh, that make you cry, and make you think. And it's probably that make you think which we're going to go into a little bit today, because returning to the Edinburgh Fringe after some 17 years is the show Woody Sez. It's a folk music journey through America, brought to us once again by Woodrow Theatricals. The Woody in the title, of course, is Woody Guthrie. And on the surface, Woody Sez just focuses on his life. But the music is intensely political, and it remains relevant to this day. So that's why the cast and crew continue to bring this show to new audiences. And it is a show that speaks to the 21st century as much as it did to the 20s. For today's interview, I'm joined by David Lutken, Raquel Chavez and David Finch to talk about how Guthrie's music does speak to our time, why it is important to shout out about the politics of America here in Scotland, and what song they would sing on the lawn of the White House if given the opportunity. Oh, and there's a little bit of Hootenany Fringe as well in. Lots of acts come back to the Fringe, and lots of acts are interviewed by me and they come back to the Fringe. And then sometimes I ask them back on the podcast again. And the question I will have is, should I go and listen to the original interview from 17 years ago of the crew from Woody Sez, or should I just wing it? I'm going to wing it. I can't remember what I asked you all those years ago. If you've been researching and revising, you're good to go.
Yes, we've been revising quite a bit. I'm David Lutken, and I'm the chief deviser, I guess.
I'm Raquel Chavez. I'm one of the actors.
And my name is David Finch, and I'm also one of the actor-musicians.
It's two Davids, kind of confusing sometimes.
So there's a David on my left and a David on my right, and I'm recording in mono. So there we go. Tell us a little bit about the show. David left.
All right. Well, the show is Woody Sez, the life and music of Woody Guthrie. And that we do our best. Of course, it's impossible to do his whole life. We'd have 20 or 30 acts. And we've cut it down for the Fringe from the 2-act show that it has become over the last several years. But we're doing our best in our 80 minutes to give everyone a pretty good overview of Woody's life, which was very, very difficult in many respects. And although he had some really wonderful luck as well, and also his music, which is also a little difficult sometimes for very different reasons, but quite successful and has been as well for the last, not quite 100 years, but almost.
Why bring it back to the Fringe?
It would have been relevant to bring Woody's music back every year for the last 50 or 60 years. And we had the opportunity. We began here in 2007 with the very first production. I had written a children's show before that, a show for school children about the history of the labor movement and Woody's music, and that sort of became Woody Sez. And in 2007, of course, there was a Republican president in the United States. And then in 2009, we came back, and there was a Democrat in the White House. And we've done 80 some odd productions all over the world since then, festivals and theatrical sit-downs, as they say. And now there is another administration, and we felt the very important urge to come back and shout into the hurricane. And so here we are.
Why does shouting it into the hurricane in Scotland, why is it so important to do it here and not just in the US?
Well, we're trying to shout in as many places as we can. We will be here for the rest of the Fringe until the 30th, I guess, is our last show. And then we decamp to shout in London for a little while at the Underbelly Theatre in Soho. And then we go back to the United States, and we will be just up the street from the White House for the month of October, having some hootenannies and singing at a very interesting place there, a brand new performance space called DuPont Underground. And so that's our opportunity. As I told you just a few minutes ago before we started, I had talked to a fellow partnering with us down there saying that I would love to sing these songs on the White House lawn right now, but I don't think I would be allowed, and if I did get there, I might fall into a hole. So we're going to do them in another underground place up the street.
If you could sing one song on the White House lawn, though, from Woody's repertoire, which one would you sing at the White House?
Well, I guess there are a couple of choices. Perhaps the most forceful one is a song that Woody wrote during the war called "All You Fascists Bound to Lose." That's a pretty good one. There's also "Tear the Fascists Down." Another one that I think of immediately is one that is in the show. I mentioned some revisions, and one that has come into the show since last we saw you is a song called "Plane Wreck at Los Gatos," also known as "Deportees," which is a song about Mexican migrant workers who were killed in a plane crash in 1948. And Raquel Chavez is singing that song. So would you perhaps like to sing that down the street from the White House?
Yes. Oh, my gosh. I would love to. Absolutely. I came on board because of my admiration for David and his artistic and political work. But I think the inclusion of this song in particular really moves me and makes me feel a sense of hope in continuing to advance Woody Guthrie's agenda of making the legacy of protest music more accessible to more people around the world, not just in our country, but around our country as well. I feel I'm a Mexican American. My generations back, my family crossed the border to come into California through Arizona, and I feel a strong sense of responsibility to speak out against the fascism that we see in our country. Woody Guthrie wrote a lot about migrant workers, wrote a lot about climate refugees, people that were moving to find work because of the Dust Bowl. It's very emotional how resonant the song Plane Wreck at Los Gatos, Deportee is in this day and age. The song is about a plane load of Mexican migrant workers that were being deported back to Mexico, whether they were there on the Bracero program or they were not. But there was something went wrong with the plane, and the plane tumbled down into the Los Gatos Canyon in a ball of fire. And Woody Guthrie he was living in New York at the time, and read an article in the New York Times that said that I might get this wrong, but that I think 32 people had died in this plane crash. And the article went on to list the names of the 4 crew members and the security guard that was aboard the plane, and then said there were 28 deportees. And Woody Guthrie was very concerned with the indignity suffered by the deceased, who who didn't even get a chance to, or whose names would be omitted from the press record of what had happened. He was very intent on making sure that people remembered people's names. We also have the song in the show called The Reuben James, where he says, "Tell me what were their names, what were their names." This song has, in our rendition, has some Spanish language translation, and we did that. It's been done before with this song before, but we felt like it was a very important thing to include in this rendition of the song, because the song is not only for people hearing about the atrocities that are happening to other people, but they are atrocities that are being experienced by, they have a lived experience of people in real time.
So you have the weight and the power of the song, yet you're performing it on stage. You need to be in the moment on stage, completely present in there. How do you balance those two factors in the song?
The song comes at a moment of the show when there really has been like an emotional climax in the personal life of Woody Guthrie. And then he says that he's going to continue to fight against fascism despite the things that he suffered in his life. And David starts the song, and it is very nice to be able to share this moment of the first chorus of the song I sing with David. And then I take over the song. I feel like in that moment, I'm still a character in this production, but it is the one point in the play where I really feel like I am speaking directly to the minds and the hearts of the people in the room, telling this story, feeling like I'm directly looking at people in the audience, trying to feel a sense of, or trying to keep my emotions in check so that I can like really tell this story. It's such an emotional topic to be like talking about and singing about every day. I mean, singing is such a vulnerable vehicle for expression, but it is very nice to be able to sing it with David, because I know David's politic, David's heart, and I feel very fortunate to be sharing this message in this room in this way.
So, Finch,
Yes.
why is Woody Guthrie managing to make so many connections to present day?
David and I have talked about this. David on the left stereo side talked about this over the years. I've been fortunate enough to do the show really since the beginning of 2009. I was an understudy for the show in Oklahoma City, and I got to do it several times. But I really moved into the part when it came here to the Edinburgh Fringe, or the Festival Fringe, I guess it's now called, in 2009. And we've talked about this aspect that Woody wasn't like a lot of other sort of famous American writers like Hank Williams, and we can just go on with a list of down the list of American folk or country songwriters. I'm not going to include Dylan in this, but he didn't write about love in relationships in that context. He wrote about the little guy and how, whether it's big government or big corporations or somebody that was a larger, and it's any kind of larger entity, basically took advantage, stepped on, ran over the blue collar man, woman, the average everyday worker. And to go back to your question, I think if we're not seeing that happening right now in the United States, if you're not witnessing this, then you're not paying attention, right? And so Woody's words ring true, sadly, today, more than they ever have. We can talk about the fascism, and David saying that if he sang that song in D.C., he might be afraid he'd fall into a hole. I don't know about that. I think they'd push him into a hole, right? And that's the way it's going. And if people aren't seeing that in the United States, it's time to pay attention. And so I am honored that I get a chance. This is probably full circle for me. I am not doing the show in DC, and so this is probably the last time I will do the show. And so it means more than ever to me, because here's the last opportunity we get to bring Woody's message to the world. And you could tell me at the Fringe here, where you're pulling from as far as the 192, 94 countries in the world. You're probably pulling from at least 100, maybe 120, 140 of them are people from those countries are coming here. So it's like, come and see this show, because this message is more important than ever. Just like the United States, we waited for the Second World War. We didn't want to get involved. And now we're watching this war in Russia and Ukraine. We'll just leave it at that one. Again, we only got slightly involved, and now it's eclipsing everything else. And with the new war, and it's like, people need to pay attention.
So do you see part of the role of Woody Sez then as educational?
Well, I think David, when he first wrote it, like he said, he wrote a children's show that was purely educational, I think, and that show's been done all over the place. And strangely, I've actually never done that show. I have done cut versions of Woody Sez for children, but I've actually never done that show. And I think, you don't want, as in theater, you don't want to stand there and give a sermon to your audience, right? But at the same time, you hope, and part of the reason I am not just a musician and also went to school for acting and all that is because I always believe that, like, if you could change one person's mind or have them think about something other than smiling and laughing after they left the theater, that you've accomplished that mission. So I think that's really important here, is that we have people leaving that are either questioning their current beliefs, or maybe will pay attention a little more when they get back home, wherever home is.
So how do you bring all of that onto the stage where you've only got like a 4-minute turnaround?
Well, one of the biggest things is we don't use microphones. So this is something we didn't talk about, where this is a purely acoustic show in a theater, the Reed Concert Hall, Cow Barn, which is 276 seats. So you have to have people that have generally big enough voices, and there's a little trick with this, what we call guitar theater thing, is you can't play too loud because you'll blow out your voice if you're going to do 6 or 7 shows a week. So you got to pull back on the instrument, of which we play, I think in the show, 23 or 24 different instruments, whether you're playing guitar or upright bass or viola, fiddle, penny whistle, jaw harps, spoons, harmonicas of many different keys, dulcimer, resonator guitar, clawhammer, banjo, auto harp. Am I missing any? There might be a few more there. But we play, I think, upwards of 24 instruments. And like I said, we're not mic'd vocally on our head with a head mic, and none of the instruments are mic'd. So we always encourage people to come on down all the way as far as you can get, so you can really hear us tell this important story. But yeah, most of all these instruments are folk instruments. And to your point, some of the styles in which we play in the show aren't necessarily folk. They might be a little more Lonnie Donegan or a little bit more rock and roll, even though, because we don't have drums on stage or anything like that, it doesn't seem like it. But I think, come in, let me play Spoons on your lap in the first row of the audience, right? So we really kind of go through the gamut of the folk instruments, which is great, because there are so many people that, like, even afterwards might grab us and say, "What is that thing you're playing on your lap?" And David's answer is, well, it's a zither of some kind, because really a zither is just a box with strings. So it's, that translates into many different instruments.
And I suppose that gives it a slightly more authentic flavor as well, because Woody Guthrie would not have walked around with an amplifier and a sound desk.
I will tell you what, we did this show in Delray Beach, Florida, and one of the best sound men, he's won numerous Emmys at this point in time. One of the best sound guys we know, a guy named Mike Kreuter, came and saw the show, and he said, I couldn't see the show any other way. It doesn't need amplification. It shouldn't have it. it is perfect the way it is. So there are a couple times we've been amplified. One of them was at Seattle Repertory Theater in 2017, and they dropped down 5 different pencil mics that were 10 feet above our heads, and honestly, in a house of 805, you could not even see them. And everybody said the sound was brilliant. So there have been a couple times, depending on the actual space we were in.
What sort of relationship do you think countries outside of the US have with Woody Guthrie? You're performing it here in Scotland, you're going to be performing it in England shortly, and it's been performed further afield. What's the different relationship to Guthrie in different countries?
Well, it has been very interesting to sort of test that and try to find out about that. When I was in drama school in London in the 1980s, I sang in pubs. I sang at the Troubadour, I remember, and a few other places. And I would sing some of these old songs. I sang all kinds of music. And someone would say, "Oh, that's wonderful. That's Lonnie Donegan." And I would say, "Well, yes, it is Lonnie Donegan, but it's also Woody Guthrie or Leadbelly or whoever it was, an antecedent of Mr. Donegan's." But it is fascinating how American folk music is a little bit like jazz, and also, I mean, examining each other's art and culture is always a fascinating thing. And I knew from my London fans back in the 1980s that Lonnie Donegan, of course, was a very popular fellow. And so when I got ready to write the show with my collaborators, I immediately wanted to come to the Edinburgh Festival Fringe. And since then, we have been literally all over the world and found that Woody is and American music. And Woody, as an exponent of some of the most famous songs of it, are very popular in Europe. We've done it in Austria and various places there. We've been to Israel. We've also been to the West Bank. We performed in 6 cities in the West Bank in 2015. But we had a wonderful time. We would have a hootenanny after every show there. We've been to China, and we had a spectacular time over there. We had some great hootenannies. Now, I will say that in China, far fewer people had heard of Woody Guthrie. We played once again in educational institutions while we were there, and we would be in each place for 3 days. And one day we would do the show, and one day we would have a sort of a master class discussion of music and American history. And my cohorts with me there made fun of me because we talked a lot about World War II, which in China is a very different concept of what World War II consisted of. And and we talked about American history a lot, and they would tease me because I had drawn with my finger in the air so many maps of the United States so that I could point where we were talking about Oklahoma or New York or California or whatever it was. But we had a wonderful time there, and I would ask them what American music they knew, and they would usually the answer was one of 2 songs. It was either "You Are My Sunshine," which was written by Jimmy Davis, the governor of Louisiana back in the day, or the other was "Almost Heaven, West Virginia, Take Me Home, Country Roads," which, of course, was the #1 song in the United States when Mr. Nixon went to China. So even that is sort of evidence of the fact that music is one of the things that travels, even in places that are trying hard not to allow it. And we've had a wonderful time, and it is fascinating that any of this music gets anywhere to me. But Woody's music, I think, really does endure, mostly because of his, as Mr. Finch was saying, and Raquel as well, of the lyrics that really cut to the heart of issues that people face every day. One of my favorite songs of Woody's is Pretty Boy Floyd, which is not really in the show. We do a little snippet of it, but it's just because of his brilliant lyrics. And the tunes are all sort of most of them kind of old and recycled and sometimes improved upon. But you can't improve upon things like, through this world I ramble, I see lots of funny men. Some will rob you with a 6-gun and some with a fountain pen. And so that, I think, is why Woody Guthrie persists.
There are lots of fringes around the world, but there is something special about Edinburgh, as both David and Finch have said. Raquel, how are you finding our little shindig?
I'm having such a great time. I've seen such incredible theater already here. Just like all different kinds of mind-expanding, heart-wrenching kind of theater. And yeah, I think I'm drawn to the shows that have music in them, but I've also seen some incredible clown stuff. I feel like there's some dance things here too. I'm excited to see some more circus stuff. Yeah, I've never been to Scotland before. Sadly, my only real association with Scotland was doing the Shrek voice when I was a kid. But I haven't yet seen Swamp-lesque, which is a show I know that is here. But I'm having a fantastic time. I'm so charmed by the city. It's just so gorgeous, and I've been walking around nearly every day, and yeah, sadly walking around in my clogs, which is not very good for the cobblestones. But
you didn't tell her to bring broken-in walking shoes. You evil. So it's not just Woody Sez that you're doing. You've got the Hootenannies going on there as well, which you kind of indirectly mentioned, but it's all right. I picked up on the signal. Tell us a little bit about that.
About the Hootenannies? Well, I started going to Hootenannies in New York. David hosts these Hootenannies in New York. I think he hosts them everywhere he does the show. And you will probably explain better than I can about what exactly a Hootenanny is, but from my, or you, yes, from my perspective, it is a sort of jam session that revolves around a certain canon of folk music. The songs are pretty easy to learn, and the one rule about being at the Hootenanny is that if you know the song, you have to sing it. So that means if you learn it very fast, which inevitably you will, because a lot of the choruses are the same lyric over and over and over again. Everybody joins in, everybody sings, everybody has a good time. There are all different levels of expertise, whether or not you're like ready to take a solo on the fiddle like David Finch, or you're just glad to just hum along in the back. Or you frantically are trying to figure out what the guitar parts are to the songs, which is usually what I'm doing at the Hootenanny. Have a beer, or you say pint here. Do you say pint here? You say
drink. We just say drink.
You just say drink. Okay,
yeah.
Got you.
It covers everything. Have a drink.
It's an imperative.
You have to drink, play some tunes, and it's very wholesome. It's a very community-forward event, and I'm always surprised at who shows up, and it feels like, yeah, a very inclusive and enriching extra experience for this festival.
And when do the Hootenannies take place?
They happen on Tuesday evenings at 8:30 over at, I believe it's called, I might get this wrong, Reed.
Front door of the Reed Concert Hall, right there.
And the great thing is we will have a link back into that show at our website, which is still edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. And you will find links to all the shows there as well as Woody Sez. But for those people who can't manage a website, when's Woody Sez on?
Oh, Woody Sez is on every day but Monday at 5:30 in the afternoon at the Cow Barn, which is the Reed Concert Hall over in Bristow Square. And we would love to see you. And we like it when people sing along even during the show. It's fine with us.
And you said you're transferring to London as well, straight after?
That's right. We're going to the Underbelly Boulevard Theatre in Soho. We start there on the 8th of September. And we're just there for a couple of weeks until the 19th of September. And then we go to Washington, and we'll never be heard from again.
But the White House will have levitated. This time, for sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, David, Raquel, Finch, delight to have you back on the podcast. A delight to have you back in Edinburgh, and an extra 20 minutes on the show. I couldn't really ask for more. Thanks for coming back.
Thank you very, very much for having us.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thanks so much.
David Lutken, Raquel Chavez and David Finch talking about Woody Sez. The show itself, it's on at 5:30 in the evening at the Underbelly Cowborn, Reed Hall, for those of you who live in Edinburgh outside of August, and it's on the programme right through until August 30th, so Hootenany's taking place and starting off at the steps of Reed Hall every Tuesday night at around 8:30. As always, link, like, love, share and subscribe. Hit the thumbs, hit the stars, leave the reviews. It's not just for me, it's also for all the shows you see at the Fringe. You can leave reviews up on the Fringe website, and if you need to book tickets, yep, you can go there as well, or you can head over to our website and find links to all the shows that we've discussed on the podcasts, edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com. And with that, back into the city. Ta-ra for now. You've been listening to the Edinburgh Fringe Show, hosted by Ewan Spence, produced by Spence Media for the Podcast Corner. Listen to more from the Fringe at edinburghfringe.thepodcastcorner.com.